everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have been watching this show for more years than I can count, and I must admit that the current situation with Steffy Forrester Finnegan is completely tearing my heart in two. Whenever I watch her on screen lately, I feel a deep sense of anxiety. We all know Steffy returned from Monaco in emotional turmoil, but the revelation that she had a drunken encounter with Carter Walton left me stunned. I cannot shake the feeling of dread surrounding this storyline. How can someone carry such a devastating burden without completely breaking down? The sheer guilt eating away at Steffy is so palpable that I can practically feel it through my television screen. I watch her face, and I see a woman completely trapped in a nightmare of her own making. What makes this situation infinitely worse, in my humble opinion, is the way her husband, John Finnegan, is behaving. Finn is constantly apologizing to her, trying desperately to make amends for whatever issues they were having before her trip. Every time that sweet man looks into her eyes and says he is sorry, I cringe because it feels like a physical blow to Steffy's conscience. She knows deep down that Finn is the one who deserves a massive apology. I strongly believe a relationship cannot survive when one person is pouring their heart out in apology while the other hides a betrayal. Do you not agree that Finn's pure love is what makes Steffy's torment so unbearable right now? Then we have to look at the other side of this disastrous equation, which involves Carter Walton. I have always respected Carter as a man of integrity, but this situation is making me question everything I thought I knew about him. Carter is absolutely desperate to keep this drunken mistake buried, primarily to protect his own marriage to Daphne Rose Walton. I feel a profound sense of disappointment in Carter right now. He is demanding that Steffy swallow her guilt and live a lie just so his domestic peace with Daphne remains undisturbed. He is asking Steffy to carry an emotional boulder that is crushing her spirit. I predict that Carter's desperate attempts to manage this crisis will ultimately blow up in his face spectacularly. It makes me wonder, how long can a man like Carter truly live with himself knowing he has compromised every moral principle he usually stands for? The idea that Steffy and Carter can simply brush this off as a drunken mistake is frankly completely absurd to me. I know from years of watching these human dramas unfold that you simply cannot erase history, no matter how desperately you wish you could. I feel a heavy sadness when I think about how quickly everything can change at the bottom of a bottle. Steffy and Carter are both painfully aware that they cannot unring this bell, creating a suffocating atmosphere of tension whenever they are near each other. My personal evaluation of their dynamic is that they are two drowning people using each other as a life raft, but only pulling each other further under the water. Will they ever realize that the elaborate cover-up is often much more damaging than the actual crime? Now, rumors are swirling that Steffy might try to find a middle ground by confessing to the infidelity but completely omitting Carter's name from the story. When I first heard this theory, I actually let out a loud groan of frustration. Steffy is desperate to unburden her soul because the guilt is making her miserable, but she also wants to protect Carter and avoid the catastrophic fallout. I can see the gears turning in her head as she tries to construct a narrative that will ease her conscience without detonating her life. However, I feel completely terrified for her because this is a terrible plan. I think she is underestimating Finn's intelligence and his emotional intuition. Do you really think a smart, caring husband like Finn is just going to accept a vague confession without demanding to know every single detail of who violated his marriage? Let us really think about how this proposed half-confession would play out in reality. Steffy might carefully choose her words, perhaps claiming that she was heavily intoxicated, and ended up with a completely random, nameless stranger at an airport lounge or a dark bar right after her plane landed. I feel a deep sense of outrage on Finn's behalf just thinking about this insulting lie. Steffy is essentially planning to look her devoted husband in the eyes and feed him a fabricated story designed to minimize the damage. Finn is a man of science and deep thought. His mind will inevitably race with endless questions about how and where it happened. I predict that this partial confession will not bring Steffy the peace she craves. It will only ignite a raging fire of paranoia and suspicion in Finn's heart. Why would she risk insulting his intelligence? If Steffy does manage to sell this story of a random, meaningless one-night stand to Finn, I have a very strong feeling about how he will initially react. Knowing Finn's incredibly forgiving nature and his tendency to take the weight of the world on his own shoulders, I honestly believe he might try to absorb the blame for her actions. he might actually accept this fabricated version of events because he is so desperate to save their family. My heart aches for him because his beautiful, forgiving spirit is being manipulated in the worst possible way. I predict that Finn will try his hardest to sweep this under the rug, unaware that the real threat is a man deeply embedded in their daily lives. Is there anything more tragic than watching a genuinely good man forgive a carefully constructed lie? However, we all know that in this glamorous, high-stakes world, secrets have a very nasty habit of clawing their way out of the darkness and into the blinding light of day. The whispers suggest that the absolute truth regarding Steffy and Carter's secret will be in grave danger of being exposed right around the end of August. I am feeling a massive surge of anticipation and anxiety as that date approaches. There is always a loose end, a misplaced text message, a lingering look, or a conversation overheard by the wrong person. The tension is building so beautifully, and I know that when the explosion finally happens, the collateral damage will be absolutely immense. I am constantly wondering who will be the one to finally connect the dots. Will Daphne notice a strange vibe between her husband and Steffy, or will Finn catch them in a private, guilt-ridden conversation? The moment that I am truly dreading, yet cannot look away from, is the inevitable moment when John Finnegan discovers the complete, unvarnished truth. If Finn finds out that the man his wife slept with was not a random stranger but Carter Walton, the fallout will be apocalyptic. I feel a deep preemptive sorrow for Finn because this revelation will shatter his entire reality. It is one thing to forgive a momentary lapse in judgment with a faceless nobody. It is an entirely different universe of pain to realize your wife slept with a close associate and actively conspired to protect him. I predict that the anger we will see from Finn will be unlike anything we have ever witnessed from him before. He will realize that Steffy prioritized Carter's reputation over honesty in her own marriage. How could any man ever look at his wife the same way again? We also must consider the catastrophic impact this will have on Carter's life when the truth inevitably comes out. Daphne Rose Walton is going to be completely blindsided by this revelation, and I cannot even begin to imagine the heartbreak she will experience. I feel a strong sense of anger toward Carter for putting his wife in this incredibly vulnerable position. He is desperately trying to maintain the illusion of a perfect marriage while hiding a secret that could destroy Daphne's world in a matter of seconds. By pressuring Steffy to stay quiet, he is not saving his marriage, he is simply delaying its execution. I predict that when Daphne learns not only of the affair but of the elaborate cover-up, she will be utterly unforgiving. The trust will be completely eradicated, and Carter will be left standing in the ruins of his life. Will Carter ever realize that accountability is the only way forward? As I sit back and reflect on this entire messy, tragic situation, I am overwhelmed by the sheer emotional complexity of it all. I feel incredibly invested in the fate of Steffy and Finn, and it terrifies me to think that their beautiful love story might be permanently destroyed by this one terrible mistake and the ensuing web of lies. My personal opinion is that Steffy needs to find the absolute courage to confess the whole truth, including Carter's name, regardless of the immediate pain it will cause. It is the only way to truly honor her marriage and give Finn the respect he so deeply deserves. I predict that the upcoming weeks are going to be some of the most dramatic, tear-jerking episodes we have seen in years. So, my dear friends, if you were in Steffy's position, what would you do?